I wonder how you think, as with family members, in the, that are cops, how you look at the other cases, and if you think there's any validity to them. Because there are 5 cases we're talking about. He's guilty of the first 3 so far out of 3. Some of them feel trumped up. But what about the last 2? The documents and the January 6th one, do you think there's any validity to them?
No validity.
Zero.
The only thing that Trump was potentially in trouble on, and the thing I hit him on when we interviewed, was not turning over the documents once he had a subpoena.
Which would have been so easy to do.
Yes. But
which was dumb, but he's Trump.
He should have turned them over.
He always does self-destructive stuff.
But that one's gone away now too because of Jack Smith not being properly appointed down there. But in answer to your question on Judge Merchan, I think he almost is in a position where he might have to sentence him to jail given how big they've tried to make it. You stole an election. But it would be at a suspended sentence. It would be immediately appealed. And I think Trump on appeal will win. There are so many holes in that case, so I don't think Trump will ever do 1 single day in jail.
So, Megyn, if we look at the 5 cases, 6 months from now or a year from now, let's assume all 5 of them go to trial. He's guilty of 3 so far.
Wait, what do you mean he's guilty of 3 so far?
Well, he's been convicted of 3, sorry.
What do you mean? No, he hasn't.
I love this.
Eugene Carroll was guilty.
That was not a conviction. That was a civil case.
Okay, well, yes, so that's what I'm talking about. So that
okay, but there's a big difference.
It's still he was convicted. He was guilty of that. He got a settlement. In the Trump organization, they're guilty there.
That, again, was still civil, libel.
Yes, of course. But these are the cases we're talking about. And in the third one...
she's a lawyer, right?
Yeah, of course. And in the third one... I'm just talking about the 5 cases. Yes, some are civil, obviously, and some are not. Some are criminal. But if we look at all 5 cases...
You said 3 convictions. Now you're walking it back.
I'm not walking it back. There's 3 in which he was...
You should walk it back.
Okay,
I'm
guys,
so glad Megyn is here.
Of the 5, 3 of them he's either guilty or...
You got a bad result.
Yeah, got a bad result. There are 2 more. If he is found guilty of those 2 more, Megyn, and 5 of 5, he had a bad result. Way to frame it. Will you chalk all 5 up in your mind to 5 different jurisdictions, 5 different prosecutors, 5 different juries and or judges, all conspiring to get him?
100%.
Okay.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to hear your answer to. 5 of 5 different jurisdictions. Yeah. You think it's all lawfare?
Eugene Carroll, they changed the law so that she could bring a civil lawsuit against him, and she did. New York went 87% for Joe Biden. That fix was in right from the start. The fraud trial that Letitia James brought against him has never been brought. There's no victims. The banks who were involved said, we didn't lose a penny. What are we doing here? We weren't damaged. Nobody was complaining except Tish James, who ran for office saying, I will get him. Then you have Alvin Bragg, who's a George Soros-funded prosecutor who doesn't like to prosecute any crime in New York City, where I lived for 17 years, except if your name is Donald Trump. Let's go down to Georgia, where Fani Willis and Nathan Wade couldn't keep their libidos in check long enough to actually bring this case against Donald Trump. It's a repeat of what was happening in January 6th up in the case with Judge Chutkan, who loathes Trump and has sentenced almost every J6 defendant to way more jail time than their counterparts would get. Those are falling apart because of presidential immunity, which was handed down by the Supreme Court, who said you cannot bring a criminal case against a sitting president for any official act. Those cases have been gutted. Also a Supreme Court ruling saying the same on January 6 defendants in general. And that leaves us with Florida and the documents. And Trump has torn that apart because Jack Smith wasn't properly appointed and isn't the right counsel. But there are other issues. They haven't even gotten to presidential immunity there. And so that one's going nowhere as well. And by the way, they're going to appeal it up to the 11th Circuit. She just threw it out. The 11th Circuit is conservative, and thank God so is the current Supreme Court. They're not going to tolerate that nonsense.
Let me ask you about...
I think Jay Cal just lost his right to ever bring up lawfare again.